Hi, Professor Murphy. My name is Joseph Harrison, and this is my reflection video on my final essay, Musical Influence on Drug Stigma. So first off, my motivation for writing about this topic, it stems from something near and dear to my heart, country music. I'm a really big fan of Hank Williams Jr. You know, I know that Hank Sr., he gets all the credit for, being the first, but I really do enjoy Hank Williams Jr., his music. One thing that really caught my attention, through all his music, throughout all the time, is he always has references to drugs and alcohol, drinking a lot, and I always thought it was kind of funny, but when I was writing about this essay, there was, it kind of struck me that there was probably a little bit more something serious to it, and how it affected American culture. Some of the challenges I faced writing this essay was, part of it was doing the halfway peer review. Normally when I write the essays, I usually don't start the whole process until about 2 weeks before it's the due date. I like to go through and I find all my sources, and then after that I go and I dig through each source and I find all the information and I write down what I want, and then from there I start the video, or then I start my essay. With this, you made us actually kind of break it up evenly, and that's actually probably really good for me to do that, to spread it out over a long time. That way I'm not so bogged down at the end during finals. Another challenge that I faced was having sources that I plan on using and then them ending up not working. So there are two sources that I wanted to use and that I'd picked out, and when it came down to it, I had to go through the OSOFast program through the library to actually get the information out of those articles. And so that was a little bit more work than I wanted to do, and I wasn't really familiar with that program and how that works. So instead what I did is I had to go find different sources on the same material and then instead dig through those. But I think while it was challenging for me not to be able to use those sources and having to go through and find different ones, I think it was better. I think I was able to get maybe some different viewpoints, but I think overall I'm still happy with how my end essay turned out. Things that I tried that were new. For this essay, I got about 5 people to read my essay and give feedback. In the past, I usually only had like 2 or 3 because of the peer reviews, and I usually found someone else to read it and kind of tell me what they thought. But for this essay, I was able to get some family members that were able to read it. They gave me a lot of really helpful feedback. They were really tough on me about my essay, and they kind of really pointed out some things that were lacking, and they really helped me kind of look back. And I've read it a couple times, and I was able to reorganize and edit and kind of fix some wording. I think one thing that they didn't point out that I was able to catch with some of my citations, hopefully I got all of those right. Habits I notice is, for some reason, I like to write at nighttime. I write a lot better when it's dark out. It's kind of weird, and it's not good for my sleep schedule, but it is interesting. Things I enjoyed learning about. So the impact that music can have on culture and how that culture can in turn affect legislation and the economy at a national level. So in my essay, I kind of discussed that, this negative stigma around drugs. The music industry is kind of to blame for that. So like with the rap genre, you have a lot of association between drugs and poverty and breaking the law. And then you also, like, on the other end, you have like singer and songwriters like Jim Morrison, who they died at the age of 27 because they did so many drugs and had so many bad effects on their health. And so, overall, I think, like, in the American culture, we kind of look at drugs negatively. And I think that's had some impact on how legislation is passed. I think this affects how, legislators, they don't always make the most objective decisions based on science. They kind of go off of, the stigma that they know or that they feel, and not necessarily looking at studies. And so ultimately that calls for, more funding for more studies, so that way we can actually have real information on these illegal drugs. So the evolution of thoughts throughout the semester. So my first 2 essays, they still dealt with drugs in the music industry, but it had more to do with drugs and creativity. In this essay, I kind of switched from studies about creativity. I wanted to do something a little different, and maybe something a little more serious and a little more applicable. Kind of going back to drugs affecting the culture and how that affects legislation and the stigma around drugs. I think it's a really big problem that there's this really bad stigma, and private investors and public entities, they really don't want to invest into studying these illegal drugs so that maybe we can get some better legislation or more accurate legislation, because they don't want to jeopardize, their personal image. I think that's all I have for my reflection. It's been a really great year with you, Professor Murphy. I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot. Thank you very much.